Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Be With Me. Our website is bewithme.us. You can subscribe there if you want. We are in Season 2, Episode 29. We just came off a passage. We called it Mr. Potato Head Speaks to God, and the idea was, what kind of stuff do we put on in our approach to God? What kind of arms do we put on? What kind of eyes do we put on? What kind of lips do we put on? And the point of that was humility. And today, our passage is about children. And I'm going to title this one, A Kingdom of Children. And one of the big characteristics of children, obviously, is humility and their smallness and their lack of scope, if you will. And they're going to be honored today. So we need to be humble enough to listen to the children and learn from the children today and allow the children to come to the kingdom and not rebuke them and not rebuke ourselves when we become like children. So here's the passage. It's in Luke chapter 18. It's titled, Let the Children Come to Me. 3 verses today about children. Luke 18, verse 15. Now they were bringing even infants to him. So this is the parents bringing infants to Jesus. Those are the hymns in the days. Now they were bringing even infants to him, that he, Jesus, might touch them. And when the disciples saw it, they, the disciples, rebuked them, the parents. But Jesus called them to him, saying, Let the children come to me, and do not hinder them. For to such belongs the kingdom of God. Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a child shall not enter it. So it's not too far off the humility passage that we did yesterday. We find the disciples rebuking parents. Maybe a good reason for rebuking the parents was to try to protect Jesus from the fatigue and the overwhelming press of the need. But because Jesus comes against this, I think the real reason that they were rebuking the parents is they were thinking that it was without value, that it was with a waste of time for everybody to involve the children into interacting with Jesus. The fact that they were bringing, it's an ongoing action, and it describes this some sort of a repeated or continual action, that this was not the first time. This was not an isolated event for Jesus. So my first thought is, why were parents bringing children to Jesus? One reason, I was thinking about Mary and Martha saying, Jesus, if you were here, Lazarus wouldn't have died. So don't forget that infant mortality was very high then, because every disease would kill you. Essentially no medical care, and half the medical care was made you worse than better. So infant death was a real thing. So I think going to Jesus and wanting him to lay hands on them and touch, because touch was often associated with a blessing or even a healing. Jesus even healed entire crowds. So the crowds sought to touch him, for the power came out of him and healed them all. That's in Luke chapter 6. So it's logical that the parents wanted to protect their children from a survival standpoint. The other thing is just children are filled with hope. And who doesn't want to bless a child and want them to have a long and prosperous life, like Spock would say, live long and prosper. But the passage says more than that. It says that to such belongs the kingdom. So one of the things I was thinking about children is they were an ignored part of that culture, just like women were, just like Samaritans were, just like foreigners were, just like the Greeks were. And Jesus includes all of these sort of leftover people into his ministries. He welcomes them. I went to a foreign country where I didn't speak the language, and someone had been there before, and we were going to minister to some children. And I said, well, how do you minister to children? You can't even talk to them. And the person, one of the most wise things I ever heard, says, children, they just want to be seen. And you don't even need the language to do that, but they want to be noticed. They want to be recognized. They want to be interacted with, greeted, addressed, shown that they're important, value, and worthy of love. And Jesus obviously does this. The bad news is they can be hindered, so don't do that. The kingdom belongs to that. And this was actually offensive to me as I was thinking about it. So think about a rich person's child. They are bequeathed with certain ownerships. You know, you read in People magazine or whatever, the youngest billionaire, and they're, 6 years old or something like that. What did they do to get that? What did they earn? What did they contribute? Nothing, except they were birthed into the family. So how about me then? What do I get? How did I get into the kingdom? Nothing. I brought dirt to it, as we've talked about before. I got adopted into the family of God and therefore got these blessings. So we need to honor children, receive it like children. What does that mean? That means with trust. So how are children different than adults? They trust, they're curious, they learn fast, they're agreeable, they're small, they're humble, they know that they're without resources. If you talk about people that come to the Lord as children, there's just this ease of belief. How did you come to believe? So, I don't know. I always believed. My family believed, and then if you received Christ as an adult, a later person, usually if you ask them the story, there's kicking and screaming and fighting and pride and quote unquote I know best. And to unlearn that I know best and maybe God knows better is much more difficult for adults. So today we find children being good examples of being good examples. So we need to look to them for two reasons. One is to see them and to love them and to recognize them. So a charge today is, number one, be nice to a child today. And then the second charge is, for me and you, is to be like them. Let's back up the bus to humility, to smallness, to agreeableness, to curiosity, to trust. And let's let children be our guides today. To let them be our teachers. Let us be students of children today. Why? Because the kingdom is full of them.